Hi, I'm Les Bennett, Learning and Development Manager with the Stewart Restaurant Group. In today's video, I want to look at the E14 Error Code found on the Velocity fryers. So what is the E14 Error Code? Well, these fryers are designed when cooking a round of original chicken to regulate the pressure within the fry pot at about 11.5 to 12 psi. So with the E14 Error Code, what's happening is we have some kind of blockage in the system causing the system to overpressurize, and it's now reached 14 psi, which brings up the E14 Error Code. Now, while we don't like to deal with error codes, the good news is this is probably one of the most favorable error codes in the sense that it can be easily taken care of by a cook or the MOD in charge. So let's dive in. I actually took off the rear access panel to the fryer, and I also took off the cover to the condensation box. I did this because I wanted to show you the inside of the back cavity here. So rather than just showing you how to fix the E14 code, I wanted to explain why it's happening. The more knowledge you have of how the system works, the better you'll be able to troubleshoot issues in the future. So what's going to happen is when you are cooking chicken, you put the chicken in the fryer, you close the lid, assuming that you have a good seal around your lid, pressure is going to start forming within the fryer. And when that pressure starts to build, there's two ways for it to leave your fryer if everything is working right. The pressure is going to start to come up, and it has two ways to go. It can go straight up until it hits your dead weight, but it can't leave here until there's at least 12 psi of pressure. Otherwise, this is not going to move. So what's going to happen when you're cooking crispy is most of the pressure is going to come out, and it's going to go through the solenoid. A solenoid is just a device that opens and closes the line, and during crispy, it's open, so all the pressure is just going to be coming up here, and it's going to come out into here, and it's going to vent through your stack. Now what's going to happen when you cook original is this solenoid is going to close, which means the pressure can't escape this way. There's only one way for the pressure to escape at this point, and that's going to be up through this pipe, and that pressure is going to get underneath your dead weight here, and when it gets to 12 psi, this dead weight is actually going to lift up. It's going to start to float. So what you're going to notice if you're cooking a round of chicken, your fryer is going to fluctuate between 11.5 and 12 psi. And you'll see what's going to happen is this just is going up and down, up and down. It'll go up, it'll let the pressure out, and then it'll drop back down. And then when it gets to 12 psi, it'll lift back up, it'll let the pressure out. So as you're cooking chicken, you're going to notice just kind of your stack here is going to let a little out, little pressure out. It'll stop for a couple seconds, let a little bit more pressure out, stop for a couple seconds, let a little bit more pressure out. And it's just fluctuating between kind of 11.5, 12 psi. So what's going to happen when we get that E14 error code is we got some kind of plug in this system. What's happening is the pressure can't get out, and it's getting up to 14 psi. Now, when it gets up to 14 psi, the computer recognizes that, and it knows that there's a problem, that it's overpressurizing. So it's going to flash the E14 error code, and what it's going to do at that point is it's going to open up your solenoid here to allow pressure out. And it'll usually, at that point, you'll see your pressure drop from about 14 psi down to about 7 psi. Once you get to about 7 psi, the solenoid closes again. Pressure starts to build back up again until you get to about 14, and then it'll open up. So you're going to see that cycle during the E14 error code of pressure being let out, and then it'll start to build back up, and then it'll let out. And when this happens, what you need to do during this error code is you just got to let the cook cycle complete. Let the chicken cook. As it gets near the end of the cycle, the solenoid should open up here, let all the steam out. If you had to pull the safety ring at the very end to let the rest out, that's fine too. We try not to pull that ring though if we don't have to. So what we want to do is we want to let the cook cycle get completed. So you're done cooking. You make sure all the pressure's out. You can open up your fry pot lid here, and then at that point we're going to address how to take care of the E14 error code. All right, so how do we fix the E14 error code? Again, what's causing it is we have some kind of blockage in the system where the steam cannot get out and the system is overpressurizing. We don't want it to get above 12 psi, but it's getting up to 14 psi, which is causing the code. So like I mentioned, we have to make sure that the fryer is done cooking, lid's open, all the pressure has been released. If you need to let this cool down, that's fine. But first thing we're going to do is we're going to clean our dead weight. So how do we clean the dead weight? Well, there's 3 screws up here, and these are thumb screws, which means that they should only be tightened just finger tight. You don't want to use a screwdriver to tighten these down. Now, over time, if they get greasy, they might be hard to get undone, and you might have to use a Phillips screwdriver to undo them. But usually you should be able to take these off by hand, and your whole dead weight assembly should come out. At this point, we'll want to take our dead weight out. We're going to want to clean it. This could be dirty, it could be gummy, and what's going to happen is if this is gummy, it's not going to be able to lift up. It's supposed to lift up and down, like this. And if it gets gummy, it's going to be stuck in the down position. It can't lift up, therefore the steam cannot get out, and that's why it's overpressurized. And so we'll take this out, we'll clean it. You can take this to the fog tank. Usually if you're going to put it in the fog tank, you might want to take out your muffler here. This just makes it so that way when you are cooking, it's a little quieter. This usually will come out. Sometimes they're siliconed in, but you can take this out, put this in the fog tank, clean it. So this is the first thing we're going to do. We want to make sure our dead weight's going to be clean. I've even seen it where we have a brand new dead weight that's just been cleaned. It's been in the fog tank overnight, but what happened was it wasn't rinsed off well, so you still had some of the tiger powder residue on it, which made it a little tacky. So when it got put in, it didn't want to move. So even if you take it out of the fog tank, make sure you rinse it off good, wipe it down good. So this is the first step. We want to take care of this, and this will resolve many of our issues. Now, if that doesn't resolve your E14 issue, what you should have on the back of every one of your fryers is a cleaning rod. If you don't have the cleaning rod, I'll put the item number in here so you know what to order. But a lot of these fryers will have a cleaning rod. Now, what we do is with the cleaning rod, now normally when you're going to do this, when it's happening, usually you'll have a cover on here, so you're not going to be able to see what you're doing. But with this off, you can kind of see what I'm looking for here. I'm going to put the rod in here, and I'm going to go dead center, and I'm trying to get into the orifice right here. And when I get into that, I'm going to drop the rod down there, and I can kind of clean it out. And that will clean any obstruction that's in the orifice right here. So your best bet, though, is if you have a cover on here, you're just trying to aim for the middle here until you can kind of think you got it, and you'll kind of clean it out. Now, those 2 issues usually will resolve everything. In the worst case scenario, you might have to take your cover off. You might have to take some piping off here, and you may have a blockage down in here. But usually, if you get the dead weight, you use the cleaning rod, that will resolve your issue.